Okay, I think everyone's settled, so we'll probably get started. Welcome, everyone. If you are not here for the enterprise agency panel, you're in the wrong room. What we're going to be doing here is talking to some of these fine folks about how their agencies broke into the enterprise space, some of the unique challenges that agencies face when selling and working with enterprise brands, and how to navigate those challenges. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mohammad. I'm the founder and CEO of Gadget, an app development and hosting platform that a lot of Shopify agencies use to build and run apps. And with me today, I have three senior technical staff members of three agencies that all sell to the enterprise. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So Chris, Serge, and Martin. Aaron, Serge, and Martin. I knew I was going to get her name wrong. I joked about getting a name wrong. I got a name wrong. Aaron, Serge, and Martin. Why don't we start with you, Martin?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yes, I'm Martin. I'm from Overdose Digital. The accent's Australian if you hadn't worked it out. I'm based down in Melbourne in Australia, so it feels I still find the word enterprise a bit of a funny word, and so feel a bit funny sitting up here talking about that. But yeah, I've been working with in the Shopify space for about 12 or 13 years, and started off as just a hack, just building a couple of Shopify sites to try and make some money. And then formed a small agency, which ended up getting acquired by Overdose about seven years ago. So I've gone from back when Shopify was sort of for mum and dad businesses. I was building shops for mum and dad businesses, and now we work with a lot of retailers across the globe, focusing mainly on Australia and New Zealand for me, but yeah, I've had quite an interesting journey doing it, so thanks for having me.
And just I missed your role and title at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, I'm the technical director is my role, but I call myself the Shopify guy, so I just do Shopify. That's all I do. As an agency, we're platform agnostic, and we do, we're involved in a lot of the e-com platforms, but yeah, I've just doubled down on Shopify. It's been good to me. I've been hopefully good to it, and it looks like I've got a job doing it for a little while yet, hopefully. So
awesome.
Hey everybody, Aaron Brill with TMG. Been in the commerce space for 10 years. Been in the Shopify space for about 7-8 years. Started working with it actually for my mom's cosmetics business. So made her a little skincare and cosmetics website in Shopify. Loved it. So I actually loved it so much that I went to our practice back when I was at Accenture and started up our Shopify practice at Accenture. And now I'm at TMG doing the same thing as our Shopify practice lead.
And I'm Serge. If you can actually say my name in French, it's Serge. But I've at this point given up. I think everyone here can just make do with Serge. So I'm the technology director at Morgan Group, specifically for Shopify. Essentially, I've been in the e-com/web development space for about 20 years now, 7 of which have been dedicated on Shopify, mostly because Shopify has made my life so much easier. Don't have to wake up in the middle of the night really to fix anything anymore the way that we used to do that. So yeah, I've been doing this for quite a while. I've been helping retail brands scale their Shopify implementations for the last 7 or so years now. Happy to be here and happy to impart some enterprise knowledge, hopefully.
Awesome. Great to have all of you, all the Shopify guys of the big enterprise agencies. So the way we'll do this is I'll cover a few questions that we kind of prepared beforehand and have a bit of a discussion, but we'll leave time for Q&A. So if you have questions, keep them till the end. We'll try to get through as many as we can. I think we pulled a lot of the audience members in terms of like where to start the conversation. And I think a lot of the interest laid in how some of these agencies actually broke into enterprise. So I think that's where we want to start the discussion. Reflecting back on how some of you folks kind of started engaging with bigger brands and winning some of the contracts, can you talk us through exactly what that experience felt like going from mid-market to enterprise, and what were some of kind of the stumbling blocks for you folks to actually break into enterprise those first few times? Aaron?
Yeah, I can go. So at TMG, we actually were in the enterprise space much earlier than I would have expected. And that's because one of the foundational clients, one of our first clients, was very big in the enterprise space. And at the time, we weren't actually working with Shopify. We were working with a different e-commerce platform, very age-old monolithic commerce platform called Hybris. And I don't know if anybody's heard of Hybris, SAP Commerce. Show of hands. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So at that time, ironically, it was called Hybris. And SAP, you guys heard of SAP? Yep. Okay. SAP acquired Hybris back in 2013. And ironically, at the time, there wasn't any integrations built out for Hybris to SAP. So TMG came in and built the very foundational integrations that eventually came bundled with SAP Hybris. Now it's called SAP Commerce. So that kind of helped grow our presence in the enterprise space. Now, if you take it further on, so fast forward to 2022 or something like that, I came into TMG and I said to myself, what's like the one thing that's stopping all these big enterprises from entering in the Shopify space? Because I love Shopify. I said, how can I like take my passion and love for Shopify and how can I bring that into the enterprise world? And right away, the quickest answer was, well, they're going to have to be able to integrate into SAP. And if they can't do that, there is no way in hell that they're going to even listen or even consider Shopify for B2B. So right away, when I came into TMG, I said, guys, the first thing we got to do is we got to build an app, a Shopify app that's going to basically integrate Shopify with SAP. Bring that ERP into Shopify. Make it as easy and fast as possible so that we don't have to, like you said, stay late at night developing long, gruesome integrations that take forever that keep us late at night, and build it in a more adaptable, configurable way, kind of like in Gadget, where when you want to spin up a Shopify app, it's just a few clicks and you're done. That's kind of what we achieved with our TMG Fuse app. And so for us, it's been a godsend because, and especially with Gadget, actually, because we actually built our app on Gadget. And had we not had Gadget in place, we wouldn't have been able to build it so quickly and scale to where we are today. So that's just been great for us. It's not publicly on the App Store. It's like a, custom app that we, distribute and install on clients. But really for any client that has been looking, who, a lot of our merchants out there who are on SAP, which are these very age-old systems, but they, all these big enterprises run on SAP. So for us, that was our big entry point into the market. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess my story in terms of how we came in to start doing enterprise. So as I said, I came from a small agency who specialized just in Shopify, but definitely didn't do anything enterprise. And came into Overdose, where Overdose already had a practice that was running a lot of enterprise builds, mainly on Magento. And so all of a sudden went from a very small team with very dedicated skill set to having lots of people around me, like a really amazing chief experience officer and design team, and a lot more development resource at our disposal. And so initially we went in on almost trying to replicate all the Magento processes for Shopify. And that first 6 months was a real learning curve for us because we found out we ended up having overbloated processes, projects going beyond timeline, beyond budget, and had to really pivot back very quickly to work out, well, what actually is our enterprise Shopify offering? And it was an interesting time too, because at the time Shopify hadn't really sold itself as an enterprise platform yet. There was still a lot of convincing needed to get businesses to buy into that, which is something that's really changed now. We're not these days coming in and having conversations where people are concerned about whether Shopify can meet their requirements, or at least not as much as we were back then. So we built what we sort of called our SaaS mindset out of that. And so that's about doing everything in a way that has the right robustness and I guess the enterprise process around it, but also swims with the tide of the SaaS ecosystem and does all of the uses all the best things of the platform and uses things like apps and out of the box integrations and tools like Gadget and stuff to make sure that you're not building a big a big messy Frankenstein tech stack on the platform. And so we sort of took that track and built out some really strong processes around that, which are our we've been working on evolving ever since, and we'll never get perfect at it, but just keep on plugging away at it.
Small follow-up question for you. There we go. I know you folks are a smaller agency, even though you're on the enterprise end in terms of like number of staff and whatnot. And I'm kind of curious, going from mid-market to enterprise, how did you present yourself to the enterprise clients as an agency that's kind of like within the realm of the type they hire? Because I think often they default to trusting big brands or bigger logos or like bigger teams that have more diverse skill sets on them. But you folks kind of broke in and you've had a lot of success. How did that happen?
Oh, that's an interesting one. We're probably not that small. And we were lucky that we had, particularly in the New Zealand market, we had a lot of really big brands in New Zealand who were already working with us through our Magento practice, and we're a full service agency as well. So we had a lot of SEO and marketing clients, and so the funnel sort of comes in not just from people wanting a tech re-platform. There's a it's a really diverse stream of people that come in to work with us. But there's a bit of fake it till you make it in those early days as well. I think we our founders have built a wonderful brand and story around Overdose and what they were wanting to achieve, and we used the slogan of being the anti-agency agency, which I think a lot of people have sort of used in different shapes and forms over the journey, and that really resonated and helped to get us in lots of conversations early. So and I was the one who just had to come in and help with, I guess, the scoping and then working out whether we could make it work. We had a lot of people really dedicated to growing the business and the brand and telling that story. And there was a real, I guess, buzz excitement factor in that first couple of years while we were building out that going from that being that sort of 20-30 man shop up to a couple of hundred.
I thought you folks were sub 100, but I am wrong. Sorry. Overdose is a lot bigger than I think. Serge, slight variation of that question. I know you guys also do some mid-market stuff as well, but like, how is the sales cycle from your experience different when you're talking to some of the mid-market clients as well versus some of the enterprise ones?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So enterprise, I would say, is less about speed and more about building consensus. And what I mean by that is, compared to mid-market, when you're speaking to a mid-market client, most of the time you're going to end up talking to the founder, you're going to talk to the e-com manager, or just essentially a small team of stakeholders that can make decisions like fairly quickly. On the enterprise side, you're talking to so many different people. You're going to be talking to procurement, legal, IT, security, brand, commerce, so many departments. And every single one of them has to be aligned on what the next move is. And that takes essentially a long time to get the deal to move, right? So you can go from mid-market that can take a couple of weeks to close a deal, maybe 1 or 2 weeks if you're really lucky, to something like 6 to 12 months on the enterprise side. And a lot of that as well kind of changes how we approach pre-sales. So for mid-market, you can have a fairly good sales team that's doing the selling. They understand Shopify really well. They can talk about it. On the enterprise side, you have these stakeholders that are very risk averse, and they need someone that's a little bit more technical very early on the calls. So we'll have a solution consultant. We'll have someone that's worked on similar projects that can essentially almost solution on a call, just to show that, we know what we're talking about. We know we've solved these problems in the past for you. This isn't something that's new. And essentially that's the process.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it too. And I think the most important thing, alluding to what you were saying, is being able to speak their language. Because a lot of times we'll go in there and they're going to put their best people forward from the architectural side. And right away, they're going to be grilling with you with those tough questions. And you got to be prepared to answer them rather than kind of go in and cross your fingers that you're not going to be asked those tough questions because you will be. And when you go in there with the preparation that you go in and you already have it in your head, you know what they're going to ask you. You kind of do the reverse role where you say, well, if I'm in their shoes, right? I'm an architect who's probably been at the merchant's company for maybe 15, 20 years. They've been doing the same kind of job. By us coming in, they have this perception that their job is at stake, that it's at risk, right? Because we're coming in and we're saying, you're going to be switching from this age-old commerce platform to Shopify. So right away, they don't know Shopify like we do. They don't understand that it's, API first. They don't understand. They have a completely different mindset. So if you go in there and you speak their language and you say, listen, we understand that, your ERP is not going anywhere. We respect that. What can we do? Like, let's work together. Let's figure out what are those challenges that you guys are facing today with order management. Let's see how we can streamline that inside of Shopify. Let's not try to take every little concept that's inside of your ERP and bring it to Shopify. Let's take some of those key ones that bring in about 80% of the revenue in traffic, and let's simplify them. Let's take the complexity, let's simplify it, and let's bring that into Shopify, right? And that's where it's music to their ears. When you start spinning off, hey, I know this. I know you guys, when you have orders placed in SAP, it works like this. They'll ask you, like, let's take a order flow all the way from when a customer adds to the cart all the way till it gets sent and it gets shipped and delivered. Walk us through the whole integration process, what that looks like. Because at the end of the day, what they want to know from their side is, look, we love Shopify. We know everybody's excited about it, but will it work? Will it work? Will it work for our business? They want, from an architectural standpoint, to be able to say yes. They've seen all the fluff. They've seen all the beautiful slides and additions, game that they showed on there with Horizon and all this stuff. But that's not going to excite the people that have the boots on the ground. And that's where we, as the partners, have to come in and say, yes, with confidence, it does work. We've done it before. Maybe we didn't do this one thing, but we know how to do it. We know the stepping stones, the pieces to make it happen. So my advice is, when you do go in there in the enterprise space, you have to bring your best people forward first. You can't bring your sales guys. You got to work the other way around and bring your architects first, your top dogs. That's who you need.
And is that because the initial calls are with different stakeholders, the mid-market? Like, does the head of engineering just show up to the first call in enterprise?
A lot of times, in order to get your foot in the door, they'll bring somebody from their, product. There'll be like an e-commerce engineering lead. But a lot of times that e-commerce engineering lead knows how all the systems work together, right? He might not know, like, on a daily basis all the little intricate parts, but he knows on a high level. So if we bring our best foot forward, then it's going to work well. One of the things that I've suggested, and it's worked for us, is, it's kind of a cliche saying, but adopting like a buddy system. And the reason why I say that is, like, you have, like, in a big enterprise, they have like a very complex hierarchy structure, right? Your goal is to kind of find, like, so, like, let's say we're a team, right? That's on the client side. We have to find, like, our equivalent on their side of who we can buddy with, who could kind of like champion something. We could say, like, hey, I think you guys should do XYZ this way. You want that champion, because then that champion person on that side is going to be able to have that conversation internally with everybody else there and get them all aligned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Serge,
I was going to say, like, to echo on that, I've had CTOs show up to calls, CTOs from the retailers, that will grill the absolute living hell out of you. Like, they will ask the most detailed questions ever. And the second, if you answer wrong, like, it's almost over. Like, you've lost that stakeholder. So you really want to impress them. You need to know what you're talking about, and you need to bring that credibility there. If you don't, then you're essentially out.
Yeah, the thing I'd add to that as well is, I think, as the tech person who comes in in those early conversations, it's so much easier to have those conversations early on in a project, because difficult conversations are only difficult if they're a surprise. If it's a challenge in the project and you're identifying it early, you can actually throw the fresh brain space at solving it, and also sometimes work out, well, actually, you know what, this isn't a good fit. We should not pursue this any further. So getting that doing that early and doing the more prep work you do, there's no point doing a half-assed preparation and scoping, because that's just how it ends up in tears and burns so much time and resource for every party involved.
Well, one last thing, sorry, I'll add is that, and it's kind of funny. So a lot of times when I would talk with the Shopify sales engineers and we're on these calls with potential merchants, I could tell like the first thing that they want to say as an answer to something is like, "Oh, there's an app for it," right? And a lot of times I've had to kind of like tell them, don't say it, don't say that, don't say there's an app for it, just don't say it, because the enterprise clients, they don't want to hear that there's an app for that. We get it. At the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of apps for these solutions, but can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
But they actually want to see us like walk through them the solution, not just give that blanket statement that there's an app for it. We get it, right? So it's about the overall holistic solution of like, how are the systems going to connect with each other? Because it's not just you're implementing a Shopify store and you're building a theme and that's it. There's people don't realize there's so many other big systems at play that drive their revenue, and it's all about connecting those systems. So if you guys come in being able to connect those systems into Shopify, then you've done it.
And I would say like the funniest thing about that is most of the time, because they don't know Shopify, they don't even know what an app is.
Right.
So that's like very confusing for them when you start
Right.
talking about that.
And tell them they use an app. It's like,
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're basically talking about trust kind of being the central issue for enterprise brands that are making a decision about what agencies to work on. And sounds like you guys are kind of offering a few different tactics. One is like invest in the brand of the agency and over time make that a trusted brand, either by specializing in a vertical or having some sort of lead gen app that gets you some credibility, or frankly, just having the brand established for many, many years of doing it. So that's one. We talked about sending your technical people to the first call to establish some degree of like technical trust with the technical counterparts on the other end. We didn't talk about case studies or use cases or whatnot. And like, at no point did you guys mention like, I would just tell this brand that I built the same thing for a brand 50 times bigger than them. Does that come up? And like, how do you see these three different tools? Is one more valuable than the other two? I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts about that. Like, what's the difference between a case study claiming we've done it versus you on a call claiming you've done it?
You want to go?
I think a case study, like I think everyone's got case studies, but I think it's really having good stories that have a bit more to them than just a case study. Like we've had a couple of we're lucky we've got a marketing team who are really great and have worked to like help build podcasts and stuff like that, where having a client go on a podcast and talk about you and being able to share that in your, hey, by the way, thanks for meeting today, this podcast talks about us, and sharing that type of stuff, I think is sort of the level you need to get to win trust and find the ways to plant that stuff, not just by having a couple of nice slides with your case studies on it. We all have that, and we can we make nice headlines, and we all do it, we have great stories to tell. But joining the dots with some actual content that's out there, and also just being able to like link things more intricately to the solutions and how they're relevant. Like the thing I quite often find is we work across a lot of different verticals, and just because we've worked with one big beauty retailer, it doesn't mean that another beauty brand is going to actually have the same tech stack and same problems that need solving. It might be that we work with a plant nursery that has got similar requirements that we've solved the problems for, and joining the dots that way can also be really helpful too, because you can then sort of introduce a reference that is not in the same space as them and not a direct competitor, and building that network and getting the clients into rooms together and letting them talk to each other and sort of cross-pollinate. Like doing that is, I think, the level you need to be at, rather than just having that sort of that case study layer, which sort of should, for the most part, take care of itself. Really, you've got a website with some nice videos and testimonials and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we actually had recently, there was a demo for a potential client that we had where they're like a power tools company, And I guess Shopify went and instead of showing them a demo of like a site looking like for power tools, they started showing them a site with like a beauty brand, basically. And so to me, that's like mistake number one, because they looked at that demo. They said, how the hell can I resonate with this brand? This is a beauty brand. Why are you showing me this, right? So, or no, it wasn't Shopify. It was a content platform demo, but still same idea that if you're going to be showing a demo to a client, you got to show them something that actually resonates with them. So you have to take maybe that like demo that's sitting on a shelf that has, you know, lipsticks or whatever, or t-shirts, and you got to change those images out, change them to, you know, a DeWalt drill or whatever it is that they need. You know, those basic things that sometimes get overlooked in a demo, because those are the things that they're paying attention to first, right? So they want to see their product. So when we talk with our clients, we'll actually go on their existing site. We'll pull images from their site. We'll pull the colors, the themes. We'll really try to make that storefront look and feel like their own, even if it's on the Dawn theme or the New Horizon theme, whatever it is, right? We'll do things like that. The other thing is that we understand that like they have so many different complex people in place at their end, right? There's different types of stakeholders. You're gonna have customer service. You're gonna have product managers, right? So you kind of have to like take 2 or 3 different types of scenarios or things that you know are issues that they face, and kind of use those in your demos when you're talking with clients. So that'll make it easier.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say on top of that, like credibility is also about being specific. So we also use case studies, right? I think we all do. We try to tailor them to the vertical. We try to tailor them to the problem that we're solving for them. Um, but at the end of the day, pretty much every single agency out there is going to tell the client, like, "Oh yeah, we've done this before." No one is going to say we've never done this. We don't know how to do it. Client is not going to go. They're not going to work with you if you do that. So similar to you guys, like we'll build like proof of concepts, we'll build accelerators. So if we know we've solved these problems many times in the past, or similar problems keep reappearing, we'll build essentially an accelerator for it, or a proof of concept that can be reused and shown to the client, like, this is how we've done it, this is how it works for you, this is how we can innovate on it, so we can iterate based on your specific problems, and just show them that. So yes, case studies, they're a great sales tool. We have it in our sales deck, but that's just essentially, yeah, it's like a tiny percentage of the deal.
That makes sense. This next question's for you, Serge, because you set me up for it perfectly. We talked about kind of the opening of the sales conversation, but as you mentioned, like there's a lot of stakeholders involved in enterprise sales decisions. At some point, you got to close the conversation. And it sounds like the conversation's very expensive because you're doing bespoke demos and bespoke write-ups and all that. How do you manage that? How do you think about, when is this not going anywhere? When do you stop? Is it time bound? Are there certain key metrics you're looking for through the cycle that tell you, hey, I should keep going, versus like, let's just stop this now? I'm curious how you guys manage the cost of these sales processes and getting all the yeses from the 10 people you need to get yeses from.
That's actually a very good question. I guess a lot of it is, if the client is still showing interest and they're very much interacting with you and they're not just listening to your presentation and not asking questions, but that still shows interest. A lot of it is also based on their own roadmaps, right? So they might want to switch to Shopify. They might want to work with us, but they have their internal deadlines. They have their internal budgets that they need to work on. So we try to align with that as much as possible. So we know essentially based on that when we should be focusing all of our energy, when should we be using our solution consultants, obviously on non-billable work versus putting them on something that's actually billable. And then I would say a lot of it is front loaded in the process. And then as it goes on, again, if it goes on over 6 months or so, that's when it's shifting towards a little bit more of the salesy side. And they're the ones that are essentially keeping the conversations going. They're the ones that are keeping track of everything. They're the ones that decide when to pull in a solution consultant again into the process. So we try to essentially optimize who's showing up to those calls and who's dedicating their time to it.
This is just a long shot, but given that you've been doing it for 20 years, any tips and tricks for things that you notice now that just tell you, oh, this isn't very serious, or this is
Yeah, a lot of
have known about year one, maybe?
Yeah, so we've had clients where they're essentially, and I'll use Salesforce as an example, their contract is up for renewal. They start to talk to Shopify, they start to talk to us because they want to see what replatforming looks like. But you can quickly tell by their line of questioning or just the fact that they're not really moving forward, they're just asking more almost impossible questions, I would say that all they're doing here is they're trying to get a better deal with Salesforce. They don't really have any intention, at least not for now, to actually replatform. So you kind of get that. We still don't give up on it, just because just in case. But that's usually when we're starting to get those like signals that this is probably not going to happen, and we're just going to deprioritize it.
What we found is that a lot of the enterprises that we've talked with, they end up having like the exact same similar challenges across the other ones. And what we found is that we'll get more in-depth involved with making more proof of concepts that might go far beyond what we originally scoped to do. But we find that it pays off because even if for this one client, they wanted us to solve this one complex issue and we would come in, we would make a really, really killer proof of concept. We can just take that, repurpose it for another conversation we're going to have for another big enterprise client. And, going back to the original question we had before, which is with regarding case studies, right? So case studies, in my view, they do have an importance, but really today, all of the clients that we talk with, they don't really care about case studies like they used to. They want to see, does this stuff actually work? They don't want to see vaporware. They actually want to see things put together working. So I think more research and development has to be put into making more involved proof of concepts, because I think that's what's going to take us. That's what's going to really get you into that enterprise space. The architects on the enterprise side really want to see that things are actually working, communicating. There's no more sense of mocked APIs, things like that. They actually want to see that if I place an order, how does it get sent through? And, can I do real-time calls to my ERP? The things that I know everybody biting their nails, but those are the things that we get questions every day from our clients. And if you can go back and figure out a way to answer those questions, that's going to put you a lot further. So
Makes sense.
Sure.
One last follow-up for you,
Yeah.
Aaron. You got a buddy system of 10 people buddying with 10 people.
Yeah.
Who decides when to stop selling? Who makes that call that this is going nowhere?
I mean, first off, when their time frame is very fluid, and then, you get in front of them, they say, oh, our budget's kind of closed for the year. It's not going to open up till 2026. We're going to say, okay, here's a little concept POC that we made together. Let us know what you think. No, this is great, but let's have it. Then we'll kind of put it aside. If we keep getting more questions from that one architect on the client who keeps pushing us back, we know they're interested. It's just about, they want to feel like full closure. They want to get that like last piece of assurance to say, yes, okay, Shopify makes sense, right? So once we feel that, we'll kind of work on that momentum with them, and we'll take our proof of concept, we'll extend it a little bit, we'll spend a little bit more time than we normally should. But we look at it at the end of the day and we say, is the juice worth the squeeze? And when we're talking with a client who has a potential 200 million GMV, to us it is. So we're willing to put in that investment and time to kind of get there. But after a certain point, if the communications are, very sparse, a lot of times what we've seen too is leadership changes happen on the enterprise side, and they're not going to communicate that to us. So the guy that you were talking to, or the woman that you were talking to that is head of e-commerce, maybe they're in a different department now, and maybe there's other politics at play. Sometimes the person that you're talking with on the client side, they might seem like they're the person you should be talking with, but it turns out they actually have no say in the matter whatsoever. And you're like, man, I wasted a lot of my time trying to convince this person. But it's okay as long as you keep that message consistent, and you have to have people on your sales team who are a little bit, you know, give a little jazz, push them out, start challenging them in a friendly, respectful way, right? Where, um, you're not just kind of taking everything and say, okay, 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 right? You say, well, why? Why is it this? Why do you want to wait till now? Don't you want to increase and unlock revenue today? Then wait about 6 months. What's the cost of waiting, right? How much is it going to cost you guys waiting for you to do something 6 months from now, right? Is there something that we can develop for you that's going to be released in 3 months? Maybe it's not going to have everything that we need, but if it's going to solve maybe 60 to 80% of what you guys are trying to achieve for your, goals for Q4, let's do it, right?
Makes sense. Yeah. So we covered sales, branding, some of the sales motion. I'm curious, how does partnerships fit into the picture in terms of getting you guys to the conversations you're trying to get into and helping you convert? Is partnerships a big part of your go-to-market motion, and how so? Maybe we'll start with you, Martin. Actually, it's been a while.
Yeah, sure. Like one thing I love is that we have a partnerships department who manage all that piece, because it was something I sort of scoffed at a little bit when I heard we were going to start hiring people just to manage that part of the business. But it is really important to have someone to sort of foster those relationships and just make sure you've got all the paperwork in place, that if you do need to bring a new partner in quickly, you can onboard them quickly. And also just understanding the ecosystem well to make sure you're not going to team up with someone who's just sacked half their staff and isn't able to service a new merchant and all of that side of things. So, it is a really important and complex beast, partnerships, and it's always changing so much as well. And it's also something where you've just got to be really careful that you're not not selling yourselves out in terms of what you're putting forward to clients as well, because there are partners out there where they may be the best at selling and they might be the best at taking the clients out to lunch, but that doesn't mean it's the best fit for the client. And so you've got to know when to play that game, and when you need to pull back and be, no, look, we think this is what's your best interests here. We're going to keep this tech stack lean, or we're going to bring in an app that actually isn't so well known, but it's actually got some really good momentum. It's got really great support from some developers that we know really well. And that's it's a fine line that we tread, and that's the judgment, I guess, that we have to make as we go, because it's the beauty of the Shopify ecosystem, is that there's always so many people doing finding new ways to do the same thing, and as the platform evolves, there are new apps coming through. So the status quo isn't necessarily the best way. But on the flip side, there's also, like, we get signals from some clients when we first start talking to them that they do want the safe set of hands. They want to work with the Yotpos of the world. Yotpo are a steady hand that's been around forever. Everyone knows what their tools do. And they're really good in so many ways. But there's also there's options that I'd say are cheaper and better in a lot of cases, and are probably a better fit for clients. But you've got to really work out how to play that part of the game, and sometimes put a couple of options forward. But it's the partnerships part is really important, and not something you can discount or think that you're too good to play that game.
I say one of the key things that we learned over the past year or so, is make sure when you're in conversations with partners that you get alignment early and often. Because a lot of times what happens is you'll be co-selling with a partner, and sometimes they'll put out like pricing, let's say, and you didn't really want them to show pricing for specific things yet. You wanted to, kind of do it like a joint deal where maybe they're just for the services, you guys are for the implementation type of thing. So it's always important to, when you're working with partners, number one, to get alignment with them early and often. I'd say the second thing too is make sure you get what I call keys to their castle. Meaning, I'm a developer. I want like full enterprise access to their systems as like a developer, so that I have all the tools that I need. It's like us going into Shopify partner dashboard, and if we didn't have access to Shopify Plus sandbox stores, it'd be a disaster. We wouldn't be able to test anything, right? So same, like when we worked with Gadget, which we're very, very thankful for.
Thank you for the plug.
Yeah. Gadget gave us the keys to their castle, where we were able to work with their development environment, spin up, really play around with their tool to push it to the limit so that we as developers can comfortably understand how it works, be able to comfortably explain to our potential merchants how it works and all that kind of stuff, right? So as long as you have those two things there and you have the right people that you're working with on the support side, which is number 3, that is the key to success. So you can really tell by once you start working with a potential software vendor, once they give you access to everything, and like, let's say you run into issues, what's the support path look like? Do they respond right away? Are they going to give you access to their Slack? Like, are you going to have like a shared Slack? Is it only over email? Is it by phone? You'll start to realize as a developer, how accessible are they? If they're very accessible, like, even if they don't have like the best looking homepage, but they've got a really damn good admin and product and support team, it's all you need.
Yeah, so for us, we went from, I would say, channel-led to value-led partnerships. So what I mean by that is earlier on in our agency journey, we essentially accepted partnerships from almost any vendor out there. Like if you have an inbound lead for us, we'll take it, we'll partner with you. If our mid-market client wants to work with you and we've never heard of you and they're really insisting on working with you, then we're going to partner and work together. But most of the time that becomes like a one and done type partnership. We never do anything together after that. So by switching to value led, that's where we are essentially focusing on the partners where we can co-innovate together, we can co-sell, we can build out, again, accelerators together, knowing full well that, we can target some specific verticals or specific problems together and go at it. And that essentially helps us quite a lot. It helps us get into conversations with these retailers in a way where you have someone else that essentially has your back, because they trust you and we trust them, and like we've built together in the past and we've been successful in the past. But that's not to say that we don't work with some smaller vendors. We just have essentially different tiers of vendors that we work with. So at the enterprise level, we're looking for vendors that can pass procurement really easily. So they're SOC 2 compliant. They have tier 1 support. Anything that essentially an enterprise retailer is looking for. They have SLAs in place, all of that. And yeah, essentially just working in a tiering system with our partners.
Cool. So we are going to run out of time if I keep going through my questions. So I want to pause on mine and kind of give the audience a moment to ask any questions you folks might have. Raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you, or I'll walk over and get a mic to you. And if we have more time, I'll cover a few more of my own. Maybe just introduce yourself in that.
Okay. Hello everyone. I'm actually not an agency. We're running an app, but I think the playbook could apply to apps getting into enterprise. And I have a question for Aaron. Since you talk about the POC is a very useful tactic to get into the deals, and I'm curious about how do you make decisions on whether to do a POC or not? Any type of commitments or signal you observe, and then how do you evaluate the ROI of the POC?
Sorry, I didn't get that last part. How do you evaluate the
Return on investment, ROI of POC?
So the thing is, and so I'm gonna actually, let me rephrase your question. So basically, you're an app developer. You're trying to wonder how much to build out your POC. How do you know, based on the customer, is it worth me investing my time building a POC for them? Is that correct? So number one, I mean, you could look at it on a very high level. You could say, okay, who is this potential merchant for? Like, what's their GMV? All those basic figures, right? When you talk with them, what are their biggest challenges that they're trying to solve? And what is the cost of them not doing something today? So if they don't do something today, they wait 6 months. can they afford to wait 6 months, right? If they don't solve whatever issues that they're having, is their business going to stop? Are they going to, stagnate, right? And you also have to kind of take that into consideration and say, like, out of all the issues that they have, is what issues they presented to you, are those their top issues? Are those the things that are keeping them up at night, or is it something else, right? So sometimes when you build these POCs, though, you don't know what's going to happen. There's no crystal ball for if I build this POC, it's going to produce this result. There's no magic formula. There is always, like, after you do it a bunch of times, you'll probably build some statistics around. You'll say, well, listen, for every 10 POCs I make, 3 clients are going to get to that finish line, and then one's actually going to put their pen on paper and sign, right? We used to do that in sales. I used to sell life insurance, and they went by 10-3-1. They said, for every 10 people you call, 3 people are going to answer, and 1 person's going to meet with you and become your client, right? So I always go by this, like, 10-3-1 mentality, that not every POC that you're going to develop is going to get your foot, out that door. It's going to get you in the door, but the more it's a good thing, because the more POCs that you do for clients, the more you're going to also get comfortable with presenting, and you're going to also identify, something in your head. You might say, oh yeah, this is perfect. I'm going to show them this, this, this. And then you might go into that meeting with them, and then you realize, wow, I forgot this big one big thing that, totally slipped my mind, right? So look at it as a way, as you're also an opportunity to gather feedback too. Because if you build an app and you're like this, you're like, I'm going to build it this way, it's going to have these features, but you don't stop and look around once in a while and get feedback, then you're going to dig yourself your own hole, right? So I think it's good that your POC, it's a little rough, even that it doesn't have all the pieces in place, but it has that flexibility to say, listen, we're just showing you one concept here, but we can also do this. It's just a little bit of tweaking on our end. I think that merchants and clients, they're going to be receptive to that. They're going to appreciate that transparency and honesty. So
Second question.
Hi, my name is Asim Bawani from CodeUp. I have a question for any of you who want to take it. So you mentioned a tiering system for partnerships. So for your tier one partners, how are you determining how deep to go in terms of co-marketing, innovation? So a couple of you are technical leaders. So on the market side, on the commercial side, how are you determining specifically how deep to go into that partnership from a co-selling perspective? And then on the technical side, how do you determine if it's worth building something out in terms of a POC or what have you? Like, how do you tier more specifically?
Well, for us, we do have partner managers that work a lot on that. It is a full-time job, I must say. So I have it easy where I can essentially say, do I like this vendor in terms of technical use? Like, as a developer, is this easy to use? Is this flexible? But I would say a lot of the co-marketing and co-selling, how deep we go in that is really dependent, again, on the value that we know that vendor is going to produce with us. So if I know this is a vendor where I see a lot of clients that I can use them that need that vendor, then that's where I'm going to signal to the partner manager, like, we should be going to market. We should have a GTM strategy with that vendor. We should be investing in co-marketing. We should be doing webinars, articles, things like that. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah, it's probably not an exact science. I wouldn't say, is it, in terms of that piece? And you can overinvest in some partnerships. You can miss opportunities from time to time as well. It's just about, I guess, when there is an opportunity that's a live opportunity on the table, though, yeah, setting those meetings early. I think what you said, even just things like getting the Slack channels set up, those things, just to get good cadence and good relationships with people that can actually help do stuff. And even like when you're building POCs, like actually having partners who can help you with doing the actual work of it as well, because yeah, as much as we want to invest in winning the deal, it's even better if the platforms can help to build stuff and do that as well. And leveraging them is yeah, a really valuable way to get stuff happening. And even sometimes you might be able to get an app to go and build something out. 'Cause it's a really good opportunity for them as well. So yeah, it's just a constant game of networking and yeah, building all the relationships that are good up and growing them and building upon them, and some will fall down by the wayside.
Yeah, I would say number one, the big part of the need is it's just based on need, right? So we'll have clients come and they'll say, "Listen, we've got a very complex, quoting or configuration system, so we need CPQ. Who are we going to partner with for this, right? Oh, we've got some really complex searching requirements. All right, let's go talk to Algolia. Let's go talk to Coveo, right? Like, let's talk to these big ones, right? And as cliche as what I'm going to say is relationships, they're a two-way street, right? So even with your vendors, they're a two-way street. So how much we're invested in our vendors, but are our vendors also invested in us, right? So when you start working with them, you can really feel that energy, right? So um, make sure you're aware, you're cognizant of it, and you see that, am I getting what I put into it? Sometimes yes, sometimes maybe not, and that's okay, right? I think it's also just like we were talking about with POCs. I look at each vendor too as like, let's make a little POC with them. Which one sticks, right? Let's build a bunch of boats and let's put them out there and see which ones float the best. And that's it.
Makes sense.
I'm Kinnan from 10SQ. I was wondering, when we've previously had to pitch for enterprise, we really struggle with finding the balance between selling Shopify and selling our agency. Oftentimes we find we need to actually sell Shopify first. And then I suppose there's a little bit of fear that, all right, we invest all that time in being like, yeah, Shopify is good, but maybe we've not sold ourselves enough during that process. And then they go out to sort of other agencies and we're sort of left with a lot of wasted time.
Yeah, do you find in those instances that Shopify ends up losing out as well as you, or is it that someone else comes in and sells Shopify differently or better?
Previously, it's like a really strange scenario where the deal wasn't valued or what it should have been dealt because they'd never done e-commerce before. So 800 mil revenue per year, but never done e-commerce. So Shopify put it down as 54,000, I think. So Shopify couldn't justify investing because of, I don't know, their arbitrary sort of numbers or whatever. And so we were sort of left being the ones selling Shopify and ultimately up against other e-commerce platforms that invested a lot more in sales. So both us and Shopify lost that one.
Yeah, I can empathize with that. Yeah, that happened, and you're not always going to magically be able to pull in someone from the platform who's going to come in and do the work for you. So I guess it's just part of it. It's also working out in those situations whether it is the right fit. And I guess if you're trying to break in enterprise, you need to find that. You got to take those opportunities because you don't know necessarily when the next one's gonna come along. But I think yeah, the POC stuff that has come up a lot in this conversation, like it's something that's, you can see how common that is across every agency now is doing it, and it's just a cost of doing business that instead of spending time in the sales deck perfecting your slides, you need to have a developer in perfecting a POC that you can actually show a working demo. And to be honest, I think that's also a lot more fun than doing slides as well. I know I piss fart around on slides for hours and hours to get the dot points the right font size and all that sort of stuff. I'd much rather be in there configuring the Shopify platform to actually go and show that to someone. So it's just getting your hands dirty, I reckon, and yeah, having something you can present, and if it falls through, you've got it there for the next one. You've got a demo that you can show other people, and hopefully similar opportunities come up again.
One thing to add, I'd say, is when we talk with clients, like they'll give us, a lot of times they'll give us requirements and they'll either be vague or not, whatever it is. But immediately the second I start hearing those requirements, like, oh, what challenge are you facing? Oh, orders don't get sent to our ERP, or, there's downstream issues, things like that. Right away, the wheels are turning in my head of how can I solve this with Shopify? What can I do? Right. So what ends up happening is that I find myself selling Shopify without even realizing it because I'm talking about all these Shopify features. So what I would say to you is, I think it's perfectly fine to put that hat on and play that role of the person explaining what Shopify is, because I think you're almost doing more service than Shopify is by explaining what Shopify does for them. Because then what happens is they're going to build trust, and rather than go to somebody at Shopify, they're going to be going to you. And that trust will bring in the business. It's not going to be the product itself. It's going to be your confidence with Shopify and its abilities and your passion for it that are what's going to carry the deal forward. So if you can do that, you'll have them.
Yeah, and the one thing that I want to add to that is that personally I like selling Shopify because when it shows you your credibility. So if you know Shopify better than Shopify themselves, then there's a very good chance that that retailer is going to want to work with you because they're going to trust your expertise and they know you're unbiased as well. So Shopify at the end of the day, and I hope there aren't Shopify folks here, but Shopify at the end of the day, they want to close a deal. It doesn't really matter who the agency is, right? So I prefer to do the selling myself because a Shopify salesperson wants to close the deal for themselves and they're going to pressure the client for that. While you're, as the agency, solutioning for them while still saying why Shopify is good for them. And it makes the sales process a little bit more fun for sure, and a little bit more relaxed, I feel.
They might say, "Do you work for Shopify?" And that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
All right. Well, we are a little bit more than up on time, so we got to wrap it up, unfortunately. Really great talk, Serge, Aaron, Martin. Got everyone's names right at the end of the talk. Thank you for your time and all the advice you've offered. These folks might be around for 30 seconds to a minute at most because we're definitely being kicked off stage. So if you want to say hi in a few words, you can. Otherwise, I'm sure you can find them tonight, tomorrow, or at Shopify's event, sorry. So please run into them. Thank you all for your time.